important thing. Again, basic difference between acute and subacute bacterial endocarditis. Right. Someone has answered correctly. It is seen in limb-borne endocarditis. So basic difference between acute and subacute, I mentioned duration in acute is less than 6 weeks. In subacute, it is more than 6 weeks. Right? Second common organism, it is most commonly acute, caused by Staphylococcus aureus and beta streptococci, while subacute, it is caused by Streptococci viridans. Virulence of organism, it is very high in case of acute one. In subacute, it is less virulence. Previous condition I have mentioned, it is normal in case of acute one, while it is damaged in case of subacute one. Then lesions on the walls in acute one, they are invasive, destructive, and suppurative. They are causing the invasion, they are destructing the wall, and they are forming the pus. That is the suppurative lesions. While it is non-invasive, they are proliferative in case of subacute bacterial endocarditis. Clinical features, just like acute systemic infection, there is a high-grade fever, there is a septicemia. While in case of subacute, there is a splenomegaly, there is a clubbing, there are petechial hemorrhages. Right? So, two things. These are the bacterial colonies that will be seen in case of subacute bacterial endocarditis. And you should not forget the clinical features that you call it as a same. F stand for fever, A stand for anemia, M stand for heart murmurs, E stand for embolic phenomena. Right? So these things you should not forget. And also you should not forget the Janeway's lesion and Osler nodes. Always remember, Osler nodes, they are seen in subacute bacterial endocarditis. They are seen over the tip of the finger and they are painful. The cause of Osler fingers, it is said that some endotoxins as well as some emboli, they cause formation of the Osler nodes. Janeway's nodes, they are seen basically in acute endocarditis, they are painless. So this is a difference between Janeway's node and Osler nodes. You can see these are again the same thing. Rose spots, that is the common diagnostic features. Here you will see that there are retinal hemorrhages and there is a pale center. So that is characteristic feature of subacute bacterial endocarditis. And splinter hemorrhages over nail, that is also characteristic features. So when a patient with mild fever, splenomegaly, then splinter hemorrhages, Rothera spots, Janeway's nodes that are seen, think about the SABE. So these are the vegetations. Now my one question, what are the differential diagnoses for vegetations in the wall of heart? Anybody can answer, anybody can chat it. What are your differential diagnoses when vegetations are seen in the heart? They are commonly seen in rheumatic heart disease. Now we will switch over to our next topic, that is pericarditis. So pericardial lesion, always remember, primary lesions, they are very rare. Basically, the pericardial lesion, there are two types of lesion that are commonly seen. One, it is called as pericardial effusion, and second, there is pericarditis. So pericarditis and pericardial effusion, the basic difference is that in pericarditis, there is inflammation is there, while in effusion, inflammation is upside. Collection of the fluid, it should be seen in the both cases. So we'll go one by one. What is pericarditis? Simple definition, inflammation of the pericardium. You are well aware there are two layers, parietal and visceral. In between this pericardial one, you will see that a fluid that is normally present. Right? Normally 30 to 60 ml of fluid is present. When it is increased above 60 ml, you will call it as a pericardial effusion, or it is because of the pericarditis. Always remember, if it is a slow increase of the fluid, the 1000 ml fluid also will not cause any decompensation of the heart. But if 250 ml of fluid it is accumulated within few hours, then it will cause cardiac temporarily. Cardiac will stop, heart will stop. So always remember, normally there is a fluid in the pericardium about 30 to 60 ml. Above that, it will lead to either effusion or pericarditis. Now, what are the causes? We will see one by one. First are the infectious agent. Infectious agents, they may be bacteria like streptococcus and staphylococcus. Viruses, they are very common that causing the pericarditis. In that, Coxsackie virus, that is very commonly seen. Then it is also caused by fungus, as well as it is caused by parasites also. So this is a first cause of pericarditis. Then it is because of the immunological causes. Immunological cause, most commonly, that is again seen in the collagen disorder, SLE. So what you are seeing a Lipman sac endocarditis, you will also see pericarditis in case of the subacute bacterial endocarditis. As well as it is also seen in some drug reactions. So there is immunological reaction in certain drugs that cause pericarditis. Now, third is the miscellaneous causes. In the miscellaneous causes, you will see that it may be uremia, it may be post-cardiac surgery, myocardial infarction, neoplasms, trauma, and radiation. So when you are describing the causes of the pericarditis, remember first the infectious agents, second immunological agents, third miscellaneous. So predominantly the basic causes, what you should not forget, you never should forget about the uremia, that is common cause of pericarditis. Second, infectious agents like tuberculosis and staphylococcal infection, immunological reactions like SLE, and neoplasm as well as trauma, it will also lead to pericarditis. Now there are two types of pericarditis. Acute and chronic pericarditis. Acute of short onset and chronic of long duration. Always remember that acute pericarditis is a misnomer. It is in fact, that is a healing procedure that is taking place in varieties of this acute type of pericarditis. So when there is healing in fibrinous, purulent, or hemorrhagic type of pericarditis, it will lead to chronic type of pericarditis. So examples of acute pericarditis, they are serous one, second fibrinous one, or serofibrinous, third is a purulent or fibrinopurulent, fourth is hemorrhagic, and fifth is a caseous type of pericarditis. Serous, the meaning is like a serum, so it is a watery collection that you call it is as a serous one. In fibrinous, serous plus fibrin material, that is also it is formed, that's why it is called as serofibrinous type of pericarditis. In purulent variety, you will see that there is formation of the pus, along with that there is a formation of the pus plus fibrin. You label it as a fibrinopurulent type of pericarditis. Next is the hemorrhagic. Hemorrhagic means along with inflammation, you will see that there is a blood is also present. You label it as a hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. caseous necrosis that is commonly seen in case of a tuberculosis. So these are all variants of acute type of pericarditis. In chronic, there are two varieties. One, it is called as chronic adhesive type of pericarditis. Second, chronic constructive type of pericarditis. The prognosis of chronic adhesive is comparatively better than that of the constructive. So I think it is clear. Now, first, that is, I have mentioned about acute one. The commonest is the cause of serous. So, what is meant by serous pericarditis? It is commonly seen in case of non-bacterial type of inflammation. So, same thing what we have seen. It is seen in case of rheumatic heart disease. It is seen in case of the systemic lupus erythematosus. It is also seen in uremia, viral infections, and malignant tumors. So, these are the non-bacterial causes of serous pericarditis. What will be the morphology? What is the gross features and what is the microscopic feature? Normally, you know that the pericardial layers, they are translucent, they are so soft, and they are smooth ones. Here, you will see that the translucency, it is lost. There are thickened layers that you will see. That is a gross feature of serous type of pericarditis. Microscopically, what you are going to see, the layers show mild inflammatory cell infiltrate. Inflammatory cell infiltrate, it is a basically mixed one. It consists of polymorphs, lymphocytes, and plasma cells. If the serous pericarditis is because of the malignancy, you can also identify malignant cell in the centrifuge sample. What is the progress? Progression is good. The prognosis of the patient is good. Most of the fluid that it will get absorbed and patient will become normal. But in case of the complication, sometimes it may turn to the fibrinous serous pericarditis. So fibrin material that is added, it will lead to serofibrinous type of pericarditis. So this is the first type of acute pericarditis. So this is the first one that is called as serous one. Now we'll switch over to the fibrinous or serofibrinous. Now this is the X-ray feature of serous pericarditis. You can see that heart that is enlarged, large heart that you can see here, and it is because of the pericarditis, the accumulation of the fluid in the pericardium. Now second type, fibrinous or serofibrinous type of pericarditis. So what is common causes? What are the common causes? The most common causes is myocardial infarction. I mentioned the primary causes of pericarditis, it is very, very rare. It is because either there is some disease in the heart or it is because of some systemic disease. So myocardial disease, infarction, disease of the myocardium. Rheumatic heart disease, basically it is a disease of the endocardium. So myocardial infarction, RHD, systemic disease like SLE. Sometimes it is because of the trauma or bacterial type of infections. All they will lead to fibrinous or serofibrinous type of pericarditis. Morphology is very characteristic features that are already we have taken in our general pathology. A typical feature of bread and butter appearance. You have seen at home at present, 2 slices of the bread, you mix it with it, apply the butter, you attach them, the 2 slices, and try to remove them. A typical same appearance that will be seen in case of fibrinous or serofibrinous. The normal translucency that is lost, there are ragged surfaces of pericardium, and you will see the surfaces, they are roughened up, and a typical bread and butter appearance that will be seen. How that bread and butter appearance, you can see here. So these are the 2 slices of the bread. Over that you have attached the butter, and the same thing that can be seen. So these are the fibrinous structures you can see here. This is one layer, outer parietal, and this is the visceral layer of pericardium. and typical bread and butter appearance. That is a characteristic feature of serofibrinous pericarditis. Microscopically, you will see that the cavity, it is filled with the pinkish amorphous material. Along with that, inflammatory cells, they are more in number as compared to the serous one. That will be also seen in case of the fibrinous or serofibrinous pericarditis. Along with that, capillaries filled with blood, they are seen, fibroblasts are seen, and this is a characteristic feature of fibrinous type of pericarditis. What are the clinical features? How the patient presents? There are three features are seen. One, pericardial rub. That is characteristic feature. You apply stethoscope, you will hear the sound of the pericardial rub. This is because the two layers of the pericardium, they are rubbing over each other. That is called pericardial rub. Fever, it is because of the inflammation. Pain, again, it is because of the inflammations. So these are the three important clinical features of fibrinous type of pericarditis. What are the complications? Again, if diagnosed earlier, properly treated, it will become totally normal. But in case, if it is a protracted course, it will lead to adhesive type of pericarditis. Means fibrin formation it occurs. There occurs the formation of the granulation tissue. So both layers, they get attached with each other, leading to adhesive type of pericarditis. So first we have seen serous one. Second, we have seen the fibrinous. The typical microscopic and gross appearance is bread and butter appearance. So never forget this bread and butter appearance of serous or serofibrinous type of pericarditis. This is microscopically, I have mentioned that. You can see that here, this is the myocardium you can see here. These are the pericardial layers. This is the fibrin material, and these are the inflammatory cells that can be seen. Along with that, some are the congested capillaries that will also be seen. So this is microscopic appearance of fibrinous type of pericarditis. Now we will switch over to the third variant, that is called as purulent or suppurative type of pericarditis. Name itself indicate that is, it is forming the pus. So pus it is formed. That's why the most common etiological factor, it is because of the bacteria. The commonest bacteria that is causing these are the Staphylococcus aureus. Along with that, some fungal infections, some parasitic infections, they will also lead to formation of the purulent type of pericarditis. So what is the pathogenesis? Pathogenesis is that infection, it reaches through the different route. Also the infective bacteria, it is coming from the surrounding area. So that is called as a direct extension. So suppose that patient is having lobar pneumonia or patient is having empyema. That is empyema, that is a pus that is present in the pleural layers. So from there, the infection goes directly into the pericardium. That causes purulent type of pericarditis. Or there will be some infection in the mediastinum as such. It will lead to the direct extension of purulent type of pericarditis. It may go through the blood. So first there occurs a bacteremia, there occurs the septicemia, then it will lead to formation of the purulent type of pericarditis. Third example is a lymphatic route. So lymphatic route, like tracheobronchial lymph nodes, when there is infection in that causes spread from the lymphatic. Lastly, it is also seen in case of the cardiac surgeries, right? Because accidentally, it is iatrogenic infections that is causing implantation of various bacteria in the pericardium, leading to purulent or suppurative type of infection. So gross appearance is very typical. You will see that two layers, if you try to separate, they become shaggy, there is a necrotic area, and there is a pus formation. So next figure you can see here very well. This is at the pericardial layers, and you can see here a plentiful amount of the pus that can be seen. So this is the greenish yellowish pus that you can be seen. So this is that is seen what in case of the purulent type of pericarditis. What you see microscopically? Microscopically, these are the two layers. In that, you will see plentiful of acute inflammatory cells, mainly the neutrophils. Along with that, there are congested vessels. So this is a high-power view in which you can see plenty of neutrophils. Some plasma cells are also seen here. Along with that, there is a necrotic debris. So that is characteristic feature of gross and microscopic feature of purulent type of pericarditis. Clinical features, the characteristic feature is very high-grade fever. High-grade fever, that is a characteristic feature. Along with that, there is a precordial rub and pain, it is also there. So pain, high-grade fever and pericardial rub, all these are because of the purulent type of the pericarditis. What are the complications? Complications, it is going to lead to the chronicity. This will lead to the chronic constructive type of pericarditis. What is that constructive pericarditis? That we will see in our next consecutive slides.
सिम कार्ड व्हाट्सएप बंद होते हैं.
Now fourth variety, that is hemorrhagic. First we have seen serous. Second, fibrinous, serofibrinous. Third, purulent. Fourth is a hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. So name itself indicates that along with the inflammation, there is a blood also present. So always remember there are two things of two difference. One is a hemorrhagic effusion. In hemorrhagic effusion, there will be only blood, no inflammatory cells, right? So then you call it as a hemorrhagic effusion. But when along with that there is inflammation, you label it as a hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. What are the causes? Never forget. Whenever there is a hemorrhagic pericarditis, never forget. First is a tuberculosis. Second is a malignant tumors. Along with that, you can also see these are the rare causes in case of the bacterial infections, in case of the bleeding disorder. So for that, the patient is having bleeding disorders that will lead to formation of the hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. And last one is the cardiac surgery. In cardiac surgery also, this is one complication that will lead to hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. So what is morphology? What are the gross features? You will see that the two layers, in between the two layers, there is a blood mixed with the exudate. So that is a characteristic feature of hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. Complications, again, if it is a rapid formation of hemorrhagic pericarditis, it will lead to cardiac tamponade. Next complication, this effusion, it get organized. So there is a formation of the fibrous tissue, right? Formation of the granulation tissue. This will lead to formation of the chronicity. Along with that, in last stage, you will see that there is a calcification also. So this is dystrophic type of calcification that is taking place in the hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. So this is hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. These are the two layers. In between that, there is a blood. So that's what we call as a hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. So the pericarditis here not only has a fibrin, but also hemorrhages. Fibrin is there, inflammatory cells are there, hemorrhages are there. That's why you are calling it as a hemorrhagic type of pericarditis. It is really just fibrinous pericarditis with hemorrhage. Without inflammation, blood in the pericardial sac, you call it as a hemopericardium. Or just you can mention that is a hemorrhagic effusion, or it is also called as hemopericardium. So you will be able to differentiate between these two. One is hemorrhagic pericarditis. Here you will see the inflammation is there. Along with that, there is a blood is there. Here you will see only blood in the pericardial. So this is difference between a hemorrhagic pericarditis and hemopericardium. So first we have seen serous one. Second, fibrinoserous. Third, purulent variety. Fourth, we have seen about this hemorrhagic one. And the last is a caseous type of pericarditis. So this is again, name itself indicate caseous is there, means it is because of the tuberculosis. So here you can see these are the pericardial layers. You can see these are the caseous material that can be seen here. So this is a cheesy caseous material. It is because of the tuberculosis. It is typically because of the direct extension from the neighboring lymph nodes. So as you know, in tuberculosis, lymph nodes are very commonly involved. So from this lymph node, the infection goes to pericardium. It will lead to caseous type of pericarditis. Again, these are the complications. It will get organized, it will get calcified, and it will form a chronic constructive type of pericarditis. So these are the 5 main types of acute type of pericarditis. Microscopically, you will never forget this. These are the typical one. This is cases fibrotuberculosis. You can see these are the epithelioid cells. These are the Langerhans cells. This is the myocardium, and these are the chronic lymphocytic infiltration. So this is a characteristic feature of KCS type of pericarditis. So I think is it clear to everyone? Acute pericarditis? Very good. So your responses, that is a good thing for me because I'll be more happy if you're understanding the thing. Good. So we have seen acute pericarditis. Now we will switch over to the chronic type of pericarditis. There are basically two types of chronic pericarditis. One, acute mediastinal pericarditis. It is an adhesive one. Second is a constructive type of pericarditis. So adhesive pericarditis, second constructive pericarditis. If along with pericardia, mediastinal organs they are also involved, we call it as adhesive mediastinal pericarditis. So what is this acute mediastinal pericarditis? What are the causes? I have mentioned that the three common causes that will lead to adhesive mediastinal pericarditis: previous cardiac surgery. If there is a cardiac surgery, there is inflammation. If not properly treated, if there are complications, it will lead to adhesive type of pericarditis. Second is irradiation. It is because of the person, it is irradiated either because as a job of that person or it is he is suffering from some malignancy. Irradiation is given to him, it will lead to pericarditis. Then complications of acute one may be fibrinous, suppurative, or hemorrhagic. That I already mentioned. Fibrinous pericarditis, suppurative pericarditis, or hemorrhagic pericarditis. All will lead to formation of adhesive type of pericarditis. But always remember, suppurative and hemorrhagic, they will also cause the other second type, that is a constructive type of pericarditis. So these are the complications of either fibrinous, suppurative, or hemorrhages. So don't forget these important causes. Maybe cardiac surgery, maybe irradiation, or maybe complication of fibrinous, suppurative, or hemorrhagic pericarditis. Pathogenesis. Pathogenesis is very simple to remember. It is because of the formation of organization. Organization is formation of the granulation tissue. Granulation tissue, it is consists of fibroblast, inflammatory cells, and congested capillaries. So these fibroblasts, they are forming the fibrosis. So two layers of this pericardiums, they get stuck up with each other, causing the fibrosis, leading to adhesive type of pericarditis. Now fibrotic patch. Sometimes I will tell you in earlier things, the anterior wall of the right ventricle that is commonly suffering, that causes a formation of localized thick wall that you call as a milk spot or soldier's plaque. So this is a variety of adhesive type of pericarditis. Why it is called as soldier plaque? It is because in World War I, these soldiers, they were strapping their chest along with all these weapons and all the things, and because of the continuous irritations, the pericardium, it gets irritated, and that was forming a typical patch that is called as soldier's plaque or a milk spot. So this is because of the adhesive type of pericarditis. Here, always remember the heart function. It is compromised. Cardiac function, it is normal. And in chronic condition, it will lead to the adhesions. So what are the complications? I mentioned that the cardiac function, it is not compromised. Only thing is that you will say that because of that, there occurs either cardiac hypertrophy and dilatation of the ventricles. So that is a common complication that is seen in case of the adhesive type of pericarditis. So this is what you see in case of adhesive type of pericarditis. So here you can see that there is a fibrosis, right? Here the wall is hypertrophic ventricle. it is dilated also. So that is characteristic feature of adhesive type of pericarditis. So along with that, if mediastinal organs are also involved, you call it as a adhesive mediastinopericarditis. It is a clinically significant pericarditis in which the cavity of the pericardial sac is obliterated. This is obliterated, it is because of the fibrosis. The parietal pericardium is adherent to the surrounding mediastinal tissues. The heart contracts against the load of all these attached structures. It has to contact along with the mediastinal structures. It is along with all this force that is required, and that's why there occur a hypertrophy of the ventricular muscle fibers. So these are the hypertrophy of ventricles, and later there occurs the dilatations. So this is all about the adhesive mediastinopericarditis. So two types of pericarditis in case as chronicity is concerned. One is called as chronic adhesive, and second it is called as chronic constructive type of pericarditis. So what is this? It is a type of chronic pericarditis characterized by marked thickening of the both layers. So there is a thickening, there is a severe excessive fibrosis which will appear, which will become thick, rigid, just like a cage, and it will interfere with diastolic relaxation, and there occurs improper filling. So if you see this diagram, now this is, you can see that this is a thickened layer. It is just like a cage. Thick fibrosis is there that will compromise the function of the heart, and this is basic difference between this is a chronic adhesive and this is chronic constructive. So thick wall, that is a feature of chronic constructive type of pericarditis, right? So the pericardium becomes like a rigid cage-like structure, and that's why there is an interfering of the diastolic relaxation, and that will lead to chronic constructive pericarditis. What are the common causes? It is because of the caseous pericarditis, because of the tuberculosis, or it will be seen in case of purulent and hemorrhagic type of acute variants of pericarditis. So gross, both layers are thickened, that I have just shown you the diagram. There is a thick pericardial fluid. Fluid is also coagulated. Lastly, there occurs a calcification, and pericardial space is totally obliterated. So this is characteristic feature of chronic constructive type of pericarditis. Microscopically, you see that there is excessive fibrosis. The wall or the pericardium, that is totally, it gets converted into thick hyalinized fibrous tissue that you will see microscopically. So this is a fibrous thickening. If it is because of the caseating one, you will see some caseating granulomas that will be also seen. So calcification can be seen because you know that in dead and died degenerated structure, there occurs dystrophic calcifications. Now, what are the complications of chronic constructive type of pericarditis? Number one, there occurs a decreased venous return. Cardiac function that is compromised, it will lead to decreased venous return. It will lead to right-sided heart failure. So heart becomes small and atrophic. There is a reduced cardiac output. Pulse pressure is also reduced, and you will see that typically atrophic heart with thickened wall that will be seen. So this is diagram of chronic constructive one. You can see this arrow it is showing. This is a thick wall of the pericardium that has become totally fibrous. This is chronic. It is a mediastinal type of this variant that can be seen here. Here you can see a mild fibrosis is there. Have you understood chronic one? Good. So remember, the first one is acute one, second is a chronic one. In acute, there are 5 types: serous, fibronoserous, purulent variety, hemorrhagic variety, and last is a caseous. Chronic one, it is chronic adhesive, and second is a chronic constructive. Right? Now, this is the last one, pericardial disease. I have mentioned that you should differentiate between a pericardial fluid accumulation. So accumulation, if it is a watery accumulation, you call it as a hydropericardium. Hydro means water. So when there is a watery fluid accumulation, you call it as a hydropericardium. Along with that, blood is there, you call it as a hemopericardium. So this is a two words. Now what are the causes of the hydropericardium? So serous fluids that is commonly seen in hydropericardium. So serous effusion, where they are seen, that is very commonly seen in case of generalized edema. So generalized edema, it will be seen in case of the liver disease, like cirrhosis. It may be because of the nutritional disease, like anemia and hypoproteinemia. It is because of the kidney disease. So these are the varieties of the thing. It will lead to serous effusion in pericardial layers. So this is the first one. Second is a serosanguinous. Now serosanguinous means along with this water, some blood tinge that is also present. You call it as a serosanguinous type of effusion. This is commonly seen in case of cardiac resuscitation or trauma to the heart in case of the accidents. So this is second variety, serosanguinous effusion. Third is a chylous one. This is commonly seen in case of this is a milky. So the fluid is milky, whitish in structure. It is commonly seen. It is because of the lymphatic type of obstruction. Last one is a cholesterol type of one, pericardial effusion. This cholesterol type of effusion that is commonly seen in case of the mixed edema. That is a hypothyroidism. Typical cholesterol crystals that will be deposited in case of these two layers of the pericardium. Right? So this is all about the hydropericardium. Remember, there is no inflammation in case of pericardial fluid. If there is inflammation, you are calling it as a pericarditis. If no infection, no inflammation, you call it as a just pericardial effusion or fluid accumulation. Now we'll see what are the causes of the hemopericardia. So here, blood it is present. I mentioned there are two types. Hemorrhagic pericarditis is different. Hemopericardium is different. In hemopericardium, there is no inflammation. Always I am putting this and stressing this again and again. Why it is seen? It is seen because of the rupture of the heart. That is commonly seen in case of the myocardial infarction. Sometimes it is because of the rupture of the aorta. Some because of the disease of the aorta, like the myocardial infections, certain bleeding disorders like vitamin C deficiency, some thrombotic phenomena in which there is a bleeding disorder, it will lead to hemopericardia. And lastly, the trauma, it is because of the accidents in which you will see the hemopericardia. So no inflammatory cells, only blood that is deposited, and it will lead to the complication, the cardiac death. So that's all about the pericardial diseases and pericarditis. You should not forget what is the difference between a pericardial fluid accumulation, which consists of either hydropericardium or hemopericardium, and the pericarditis. It may be acute or chronic one. Acute, it may be because of the serous, fibrinoserous, purulent variety, hemorrhagic variety, caseous variety. In chronic one, you should not forget chronic adhesive and chronic constrictive. One more thing, you should not forget the soldier patch. That is also important one. It is a whitish patch that is seen over the anterior surface of the right ventricle. So that's all about the pericardial disease. This is commonly asked as a short note. Prerna has not understood. No, sir. Any questions?
Questions.
No questions.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
you, sir.
Okay. You are welcome. Remember this topic. This is important topic.
Yes, sir.